I'm Jamil Alawale Kasako, and this is American Chameleon, a podcast by artists, for artists, with artists. This show is an invitation to join me on a creative journey, a personal journey, and a journey towards healing, mine, yours, and many others. I will travel the world in search of chameleons and the allies that support our work. We have fun, complex, creative conversations around the contemporary issues that inspire our work and propel us onto the global stage as poets, curators, performance artists, activists, and educators. But before we arrive here, you should know where American Chameleon came from. The year was 2015. I was working in New York City as a producer and curator. By day, I supported artists, helping them realize their work and share their ideas. And then at night, scrolling through my social media feeds, I'd be inundated with horrible images, over and over and over again, the murders of different black men, women, and transgender people. Then my worst fear became a reality. I received the news that my brother had been murdered. I could not believe how the information had been given to me via text message. I dropped the phone. I felt sick to my stomach. I ran to the bathroom and threw up. I struggled to keep working, eventually quit my job, and threw myself full-time into making my performance work. Something, anything, to try to process all the grief. What came about was a piece I decided to call #Negrophobia. In this piece, it was a way for me to mourn my brother's loss while also mourning the death of so many brothers. And so in this way, my brother became a kind of metaphor, I guess, for a lot of slain black people. So my brother's shoes. These are my brother's shoes. These are my brother's shoes. These are my dead brother's shoes. I was really trying to figure out how to deal with the contradictions of black masculinity that had been projected onto my body against the reality of my interior life. And it's not always straightforward where one ends and the other begins. At the same time, the whole Black Lives Matter movement was really taking form, and I was meditating quite deeply on this idea of what does it mean to matter? Who has the privilege of mattering? What happens to Black matter, and what happens after it has been captured digitally? Up and down our media feeds, we seem to feed on this capture and turn it into a strange kind of celebrity. It's almost pornographic. I wanted to continue to examine this idea of Black capture and Black possibility, expressed through themes of madness and paranormal activity. That was what led me to this idea that I called seancers. That was the second performance work that premiered in December of 2017 in New York City. Seancers begins with a dialogue with a guest seancer, and together we talk through these ideas of loss and grief and how together we can work through these themes.
I brought with me one of a really incredible book that I happened to find. The Burden of Memory, the Muse of Forgiveness. So Wole Soyinka, Nigerian. Jamil Olawale Kosoko, Nigerian-American. Brenda Dixon Gottschalk, African-American, who has had her ancestry tested, and I have 22% Nigerian DNA.
What? Are we people?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
The peace seancers became a way to examine the possibility, the transformative possibility that grief can offer. I call this post-traumatic enlightenment. So both #Negrophobia and seancers are parts 1 and 2 of this larger trilogy that I'm calling Chameleon Biomyth. The Chameleon Biomyth speaks to melanin, the possibility that it has to transform, to survive, to educate, to teach, to disrupt. All of that exists inside of the melanin. So the chameleon is a metaphor, but it is also a very real aspect of being and thinking and existing in a world that is quite anti-Black. It talks to how we shapeshift and code switch in order to survive. Biomyth is a word risen from the term biomythography, created by the great poetess Audre Lorde, from her text Zami, a new spelling of my name. Now I'm working on this new work that I'm currently calling Abysmal Water. But that might change. I don't know, I'm still very much deep in the creative process of this thing. But I've been working on ways to try to materialize the ghost of grief and loss, to give it shape and form, and to hopefully, if I'm semi-successful inside of this project, share this feeling with many, many people. I'm thinking about how we hold, how we give shape to love and care and pleasure, as well as how we give shape to trauma and grief. These things coincide. They move alongside each other, and we're going to go through them together in this podcast. Both the grief and the pleasure, the happiness, the funny, the sad, the ups, the downs, all of that. When I start a work, I don't always know what it will be, how it will be, what it'll be called. All of that kind of emerges over time, and I try to open up my spirit and allow what needs to come. And I try to listen. I feel like my work is listening and thinking and being as truthful as I can and telling the stories that matter to me and to people like me. I guess you could say American Chameleon is a travel podcast, not from place to place, but from feeling to performance, among different selves and identities, from fantasy to stage, with some of my favorite artists and thinkers, and yeah. So, come join me in this journey through this creative process and around the globe. This is American Chameleon. Thank you for listening. American Chameleon is produced with support from the New England Foundation for the Arts, with production, sound design, and engineering by Ling Ling Yang, Paulus Van Horn, Everett Assis Saunders, Connor Anderson, and me, with special thanks to Impact, Experimental Media and Performing Arts Center at Rensselaer Polytechnic, and Red Bull Arts Detroit for providing residency, recording space, and engineering assistance. Join me on our next episode of American Chameleon for a conversation with former Poet Laureate Tracy K. Smith.
Hi, this is Ling, one of the producers on this show. Jamil doesn't go into detail here, but his brother's murder was one in a series of deaths in his immediate family. He was interviewed on Terrible Thanks for Asking in 2017. In that interview, he goes a lot deeper into that series of experiences and feelings. There'll be a link in the show notes. Thanks.